Hello again, it's Kim Flannery, Director of Nutrition at the Wisconsin Athletic Club, and I'm back today to do the second of 3 short videos in a series that I could call Brain Tricks, tricks that the brain plays on you when you're trying to eat healthy and change your habits. The first video that I did was on why dopamine is challenging. This video we're going to be focusing on the challenge of delayed gratification. The brain finds this challenging for several reasons, and the first of those reasons is that the brain, that higher level part of our brain, that reasoning brain, is very able to approach willpower challenges and deal with those in effective ways. But that same part of our brain is also very good at coming up with reasoning for why we could not do that, why we could delay that, why we could wait and just have this donut now instead of waiting for that longer term payoff in terms of health or whatever it is that your long-term goal is. It's also, we find through studies that we tend to give a lower value to that longer term goal as opposed to that thing sitting right in front of us, that very accessible, very visible perhaps, maybe even something that you're smelling at this moment and it smells good. So it's much easier to place a higher value on that thing that's right there. We also find it very difficult in the future just because we forget that longer term goal in the moment sort of disappears. It's like it doesn't even come to our mind. And that's a real issue too. So what can you do to prevent this from happening as often? We are human beings, it will happen. But again, I come back to the brain function, this ability that we have to turn off the judgments when we're present and just notice what's going on. That's so important for anything that's going to follow, because if you don't have that, whatever your habit is, that's what's going to play out. So noticing, that's very important. I think it's also helpful if you keep your food environment less tempting. We find through studies that when people are looking right at something, it's right there, you see it, that chunk of chocolate on the counter, whatever it is that's really drawing you in. Try and keep those temptations to a minimum. If you can stop and just notice, maybe you can take a 10-minute break. Studies also show that calming down, cooling off that urge is very helpful. 10-minute little break can just give you that little bit of distance between that trigger, seeing that food, smelling it, whatever, and the action that comes out of that trigger. So that's another thing you can do. And lastly, very importantly, drawing to mind that longer term goal and remembering it so that it doesn't just slip out of you. And maybe trying to remember why it was so important to you so that you can maybe make it look a little more valuable. And one thing I will add to that is if your long-term goal is not something that's very heartfelt and something you really, really feel strongly is important to you, that's going to make this whole process very difficult. So it may involve just looking at your goal again and maybe redefining that. So there's the message for today, just a little more practice for you to do while you're in your homes. Maybe step number 1 is cleaning out your pantry today and removing some temptations. So take care, and I'll be back with you for that last of the 3-part video series on brain tricks, and stay safe, and I will talk to you soon.